December 4th, 1872. The vast, lonely expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, somewhere between the Azores and Portugal. A British brigantine, the Dei Gratia, slices through the waves under a gray sky. Through his spyglass, Captain David Morehouse spots something unusual. Another ship, adrift. Its sails in tatters, lurching awkwardly with the swell of the sea. It's a two-masted brigantine, just like his own. As they draw closer, an eerie silence hangs over the vessel. No one is at the helm. No one walks the deck. He recognizes the ship. It's the Mary Celeste, which had left New York Harbor just 8 days before him. A chilling premonition washes over Captain Morehouse. Something is terribly wrong. He orders a boarding party to investigate, and what they discover will launch one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. A ghost ship, found in near-perfect condition, but with its entire crew, vanished without a trace. The boarding party from the Dei Gratia, led by First Mate Oliver Deveau, cautiously climbed aboard the Mary Celeste. The scene they found was not one of chaos, but of unsettling order. The ship was wet, with a few feet of water in the hold, but it was far from sinking. On deck, the rigging was slightly damaged and some sails were torn, suggesting a recent brush with heavy weather, but nothing catastrophic. The ship's single lifeboat was missing, a significant clue, yet the davits from which it would have been launched showed no signs of damage or haste. Stepping below deck, the mystery only deepened. In the crew's quarters, their belongings were neatly stowed. Their oilskin boots and pipes lay right where they'd left them, as if they intended to return at any moment. There were no signs of a struggle, no bloodstains, no evidence of a mutiny or pirate attack. In fact, the pirates of this era, the so-called Golden Age, long past, were few and far between in these waters, and pirates would have surely plundered the ship. Yet, the cargo, 1,701 barrels of raw industrial alcohol, was completely untouched. This wasn't just valuable, it was highly flammable, but every barrel was accounted for and secure. In the captain's cabin, the scene was even more bizarre. Captain Benjamin Briggs's logbook lay open on his desk. The last entry was dated November 25th, 9 days earlier. It noted the ship's position near the Azores and reported no unusual events. It simply ended, mid-sentence. Personal effects, including money and jewelry, were left behind. A sewing machine with a child's dress still under the needle sat untouched. A child's toys were scattered on a bunk. It was a haunting domestic scene, frozen in time. The ship's provisions were plentiful. There was enough food and water to last for 6 months. Why would a seasoned captain like Benjamin Briggs, a man known for his calm demeanor and professionalism, abandon a perfectly seaworthy vessel with his wife, his 2-year-old daughter, and his experienced crew? The ship had sailed over 500 nautical miles on its own, a ghost, guided by the wind and currents. The Mary Celeste wasn't just a ship. It was a floating enigma, a Marie Antoinette of the seas, a vessel that held its secrets close, leaving only whispers and questions in its wake. To understand the Mary Celeste, we must first understand the man who captained her, Benjamin Spooner. Briggs was the very model of a 19th-century sea captain. Born into a Massachusetts seafaring family, he was respected, teetotal, and deeply religious. He wasn't a man prone to panic or rash decisions. In 1872, he purchased a share in the Mary Celeste and decided to take his wife, Sarah, and their young daughter, Sophia, on the voyage from New York to Genoa, Italy. His 7-year-old son, Arthur, was left behind with family to attend school, a decision that likely saved his life. The crew he assembled was small but experienced, mostly Germans and Danes. They were by all accounts a professional and disciplined group. On November 7, 1872, under fair skies, they set sail from New York Harbor, loaded with their cargo of denatured alcohol, destined for Genoa. They were never seen alive again. So what happened? Over the last 150 years, theories have swirled like a winter storm. Early speculation leaned towards the sensational, a mutiny, a pirate attack, or even an encounter with a giant squid or a sea monster. But the evidence, or lack thereof, simply doesn't support these dramatic scenarios. There were no signs of violence, and the valuable cargo was intact. The sea monster theory, while entertaining, belongs more to fiction than fact. The clues left behind, the missing lifeboat, the abandoned meal, the last log entry, point to a sudden but orderly evacuation. The crew didn't flee in a blind panic. They prepared to leave. The question is why? One of the most enduring and plausible theories revolves around that cargo of industrial alcohol. While the barrels were found sealed, it's possible that some of them were leaking. The barrels were made of red oak, a more porous wood than the standard white oak, which might have allowed alcohol fumes to escape and build up in the hold. Captain Briggs, a non-drinker, might have been overly cautious about the risk of a massive explosion. Imagine the scenario: a strange rumbling sound from the hold, the smell of potent fumes. Fearing an imminent blast, Briggs gives the order to abandon ship as a precaution. They quickly lower the lifeboat, perhaps attaching a line to the main ship, intending to wait at a safe distance until the danger passes. This explains the orderly departure. But then, a sudden squall could have snapped the tow line, or the winds could have picked up, pushing the Mary Celeste away from the tiny lifeboat faster than they could row. Lost in the vastness of the Atlantic, their fate was sealed. This alcohol vapor theory gained significant traction after an experiment conducted by Dr. Andrea Sella of University College London. He recreated a small-scale version of the ship's hold and ignited alcohol vapor. The result wasn't a fiery, ship-destroying explosion, but a powerful pressure wave blast that would have been terrifying, but left behind very little evidence of fire or scorching. It would have been a whoosh, followed by an eerie silence. The blast could have blown off the main hatch cover, which was indeed found on deck, not in its proper place. For Captain Briggs, hearing such a sound from the hold might have been the final terrifying signal to get his family and crew off the ship immediately. It neatly explains the lack of panic, the missing lifeboat, and the ship's undamaged state. Another compelling theory involves a meteorological phenomenon known as a siege, or an undersea earthquake. A submarine tremor could create a sudden violent lurch, or even a temporary waterspout that could have damaged the ship's chronometer, pumps, and rigging, while also dislodging the hatch covers. Fearing the ship was taking on water far faster than it was, perhaps due to a faulty-sounding rod found on deck, and with his navigational tools compromised, Captain Briggs might have made the calculated decision to abandon ship for the perceived safety of the Azores, which they believed were nearby. The 300-gallon water cask on deck being knocked over, and the compass binnacle being shifted from its mountings could be evidence of a sudden violent jolt. In this scenario, they lowered the lifeboat and headed for land, only to be swamped by the same rough seas that the Mary Celeste herself managed to ride out. And then there are the darker, more human theories. Could there have been a dispute over the salvage rights? Some have pointed fingers at the crew of the Dei Gratia, suggesting they might have found the Mary Celeste crew, eliminated them, and claimed the full lucrative salvage prize for a derelict ship. However, there's absolutely no evidence for this. Captain Morehouse and Captain Briggs were personal friends. The Dei Gratia crew was subjected to a rigorous inquiry at the salvage hearings in Gibraltar, and no wrongdoing was ever found. Their logbooks matched up, their stories were consistent, and their characters were unimpeachable. The idea of Morehouse murdering his friend's wife, and his friend's 2-year-old daughter for money seems not just improbable, but monstrous. Perhaps the simplest explanation is the most tragic. The ship encountered a severe storm, not unheard of in that part of the Atlantic. They may have lowered the lifeboat to try and manage a damaged sail, or to escape a ship they mistakenly believed was sinking, only to be separated from it by a sudden gust of wind or a rogue wave. The evidence of heavy weather was there, but it didn't seem severe enough to warrant abandoning a sturdy ship. Yet for a captain with his family on board, the threshold for risk might have been significantly lower. A combination of bad weather, a faulty chronometer leading them to believe they were closer to land than they were, and perhaps a small panic over leaking cargo could have created a perfect storm of bad decisions. In the end, we are left with a ship that sailed on without its sailors. The Mary Celeste was eventually sailed to Gibraltar, where the salvage court convened. The court was suspicious, but could prove nothing. The ship was eventually sold and passed through 17 more owners, developing a reputation as being cursed. Her final captain, in a bid to commit insurance fraud, deliberately ran her aground on a reef in Haiti in 1885. But even then, the Mary Celeste refused to cooperate, failing to sink as planned. The fate of Captain Briggs, his family, and his crew remains lost to the ocean. Their story has become a legend, a cautionary tale whispered by sailors for generations. The Mary Celeste is more than just a historical puzzle. She is a ghost on the ocean, a symbol of the sea's immense power and its ability to keep its deepest secrets. The truth of what happened in those 9 days between her last log entry and her discovery will likely never be known for certain. And perhaps that's why her story endures, drifting forever in the mysterious currents of our imagination. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into one of history's greatest maritime mysteries. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more dives into the unexplained. Let me know your favorite theory about the Mary Celeste in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.